Welcome to Vegas Hockey Hub here in the sports entertainment capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada, on PRConnectionsRadio.com, the voice of new media. I'm your host, Ian Rickelli. Now, everyone here in Las Vegas, the sports entertainment capital of the world, everyone who is a Vegas Golden Knights fan around the world is focused on the current team. Everyone around the world is talking about the brand new coach, the guy who is now the sheriff, now the guy who's in town for your Vegas Golden Knights. And I will admit that Bruce Cassidy has done a fantastic job at doing his part when it comes to the Vegas Golden Knights. Number one seed in the Western Conference, third best record in the NHL. There is no doubt that Bruce Cassidy has done a fantastic job with your Vegas Golden Knights. But similar to an episode we did earlier about what has happened to Marc-Andre Fleury since leaving Vegas. Well, the two-parter to this is going to be talking about the former coach of your Vegas Golden Knights, and that is going to be discussing what has happened to Pete DeBoer since leaving Vegas. What has Pete DeBoer done in Dallas since joining the Dallas Stars in the 2022 NHL offseason? What has been the outcome? What has been the result so far of Pete DeBoer's tenure in Dallas? Now, before we get to the actual answer on what he is doing in Dallas, I need to give you a little bit of some context. I need to give you a little bit of a refresher on who Pete DeBoer is. Now, Pete DeBoer was a former player before becoming a coach. He played in the OHL for the Windsor Spitfires. And he actually had a pretty good career in the OHL. He had 171 points in 226 career games, racked up 140 penalty minutes during his time in the OHL. Then he gets drafted in the 1988 NHL draft by Toronto, and then he has 3 seasons in the International Hockey League, which is the equivalent of the American Hockey League we know today. He played for the Milwaukee Admirals, and in his 3 seasons playing in the IHL, he had 48 goals, 102 points in 151 games as a professional hockey player. However, in 1991, at the age of 23 years old, Pete DeBoer retired from professional hockey. He hung up his skates and he became an assistant coach. Then, what ended up happening is that in 1995, not even a few years after retiring, he becomes the head coach of the Detroit Whalers. Now, the Detroit Whalers are from the Ontario Hockey League, and they are actually a league that is very familiar. The Ontario Hockey League, the OHL, is a junior hockey league that some people would be very familiar with. So after being with them, after being with the Whalers for a couple of years and being in the OHL, he decides to leave the Whalers and he goes to the Kitchener Rangers of the OHL. So he stays in the OHL. He moves over from the Whalers to the Rangers, and this is actually where Pete DeBoer got his first taste of success as a coach in hockey. As a matter of fact, this is actually one of the first times that Pete DeBoer ended up winning a championship. So in fact, he won 2 championships in the OHL. So after winning 2 championships in the OHL for the Kitchener Rangers, in 2008, Pete DeBoer gets his first ever shot as a NHL head coach. In 2008, he gets hired to be the Florida Panthers head coach. And with the Florida Panthers, he unfortunately did not have a great tenure in Florida. After being with them from 2008 to 2011, and then missing the playoffs every single year, he eventually gets fired from the Florida Panthers. So after having a tenure of 103 wins, 143 losses with the Florida Panthers, he gets fired in 2011. Then after 2011, he gets a second chance, however, and he goes to the New Jersey Devils. Only reason why is because Lou Lamoriello, who is the former Devils general manager, was the one who brought him in. Now, New Jersey is an interesting topic when it comes to Pete DeBoer, because the first season of Pete DeBoer's tenure in New Jersey, they went 48-34. They had 102 points, and they made it all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals. As a matter of fact, the New Jersey Devils lost in the Stanley Cup Finals that year to the LA Kings. But let's not talk about the fact that it was impressive that they got to a 6-game series against the LA Kings that year. So after year one being in New Jersey, they lose to the LA Kings. Then his 3 seasons afterwards, Pete DeBoer unfortunately missed the playoffs in 2013, 2014, and 2015. So Pete DeBoer being fired by New Jersey, being fired by them in 2014, he didn't have to wait long to get another job in the NHL. In 2015, ironically, May 28, 2015, Pete DeBoer was named a head coach in San Jose. And an interesting part about Pete DeBoer is that he made it to the playoffs every year of his tenure in San Jose before 2020 happened. 2016, they made it to the Stanley Cup playoffs in his first season in San Jose. After accumulating 98 points and having a 46-36 record, they went all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals and lost to the Pittsburgh Penguins. You might be picking up on a pattern here. His first year in New Jersey, they get to the Stanley Cup Final. His first year in San Jose, they get to the Stanley Cup Finals, and they lose in 6 games to Pittsburgh. Year 2, in 2017, they have 99 points, 46-36 once again, but they lose in the first round to the young and up-and-coming Edmonton Oilers. 2018, Pete DeBoer goes 45-37, one more loss than the year before, and they lose in the second round to an expansion team known as the Vegas Golden Knights. That's going to be very important later on. And then 2019, they go back to 46-36, and they lose in the Western Conference Finals to the St. Louis Blues. However, the 2019 NHL playoffs indirectly caused what's about to happen next. Because in the first round of the 2019 Stanley Cup playoffs, the San Jose Sharks defeated a certain team in 7 games. That team just so happened to be the Vegas Golden Knights. And considering we talked about it plenty on this show, yes, that is the series that changed the Vegas Golden Knights forever. That was the series that kickstarted the events that would happen 6 months later. That was the incident where they had a 5-minute penalty that unwounded the Vegas Golden Knights. So after the 2019 playoffs where they lost in the Western Conference Finals, well, how did Pete DeBoer do in 2020? How did Pete DeBoer end up performing in that 2020 season? Well, after starting the season 15 wins and 18 losses, the San Jose Sharks fire Pete DeBoer on December of 2019. January of 2020 is where Pete DeBoer got his shot with the Vegas Golden Knights. 1 month after being fired by San Jose, and not only 6 months after beating the Golden Knights in the first round, he replaces Gerard Gallant, a fan favorite in Las Vegas. Now, did the Vegas Golden Knights get to the Stanley Cup Finals in year one under Pete DeBoer like they did in San Jose, like they did in New Jersey? No. But what they did do was go 15-17 with Pete DeBoer for the rest of that year, and they lost in the Western Conference Finals to the Dallas Stars during the bubble of 2020. How about in 2021 when Pete DeBoer was his first season as the head coach in Vegas? Well, they went 40-16, had the second best record in all of hockey, and they lost in the Western Conference Finals to the Montreal Canadiens. But it was that 2021-2022 season that changed everything. That 2021-2022 season is what changed Pete DeBoer. Because that 2021 season, they go 43-39. That was the worst 82-game season of Pete DeBoer's career since 2014, when he went 35-47 with the New Jersey Devils. Pete DeBoer had a streak, by the way, dating back to 2015, where he had made the playoffs every single year that he was a head coach, all 82 game seasons. All right, so from 2015 to 2021, he had a 6-year run of making the playoffs every single year. So in that 2021-2022 season, the Vegas Golden Knights did not make the playoffs, and Pete DeBoer got fired as a result. Now, I don't have to point out that everyone here who's watching this show in Las Vegas, you already know about what's going on. By the way, Thomas, thanks for the please like and share. We appreciate your support, Thomas. And you know what? The person who just made this comment, they kicked DeBoer to the curb when he didn't make it to the playoffs and got a dose of the Vegas Golden Knights medicine. Well, my rebuttal to you will be, was it his fault that almost every star player got injured that year? Was it really Pete DeBoer's fault that the goaltending was shaky at times? Now, look, I'll give you credit. You can blame Pete DeBoer for the lack of defensive awareness. I'll give you that. You can. You could blame Pete DeBoer for the dump and chase that he did frequently in Vegas. All right? But what I won't do is say that because Mark Stone got injured and because Jack Eichel missed a certain amount of the season, that Pete DeBoer deserved to be fired. As a matter of fact, you could actually make an argument that the Vegas Golden Knights jumped the gun by firing Pete DeBoer after his first season of missing the playoffs. Because like I said, from 2015 to 2021, they did not miss the playoffs once with Pete DeBoer. From 2015 to 2021. That was a 6-year run. Now, you bring up that the Vegas Golden Knights have no loyalty. Well, the Vegas Golden Knights do what's best for business. That's a phrase we do a lot on this show. On this show, Vegas Hockey Hub, I tell you how it is. And how it is that the Vegas Golden Knights, Bill Foley and the management, they do what is best for business. So, in this 2022 offseason, when they fire Pete DeBoer, they bring in Bruce Cassidy, they were doing what was best for business. Now, hindsight is 2020. But so far, it looks like Pete DeBoer actually found a blessing in disguise. Because in June of 2022, 1 month after being fired from Vegas, he gets hired to be the head coach of the Dallas Stars. Now, the Dallas Stars were an interesting organization because Dallas was 2 years removed from being in the Stanley Cup Finals. The 2020 Stanley Cup Finals that the Dallas Stars defeated the Vegas Golden Knights to get to the Stanley Cup Final, that was only a few years ago. And yes, I understand 2021, they did not qualify for the postseason. But in 2022, the year that Pete DeBoer is joining the organization. They went 46-36. They lost in the first round to Calgary in a tough 7-game series that Jake Ottinger worked his ass off in net and had one of the best performances a goalie has ever had. So I will not blame Pete DeBoer for wanting to be with the Dallas Stars. There's a lot of good reason as to why the Dallas Stars were a lucrative and attractive offer for Pete DeBoer. Not only had they made the postseason 3 of the last 4 seasons, but this is also the same Dallas Stars that has a majority of their core from that 2020 Stanley Cup run. And if you actually examine, and you go on capfriendly.com, which I use a lot for the show, then you will know that he actually has some talent out there in Dallas. As a matter of fact, the Dallas Stars kind of have a rich amount of talent out in Dallas. Not only do they have a first line with Jason Robertson, who already has 26 points in 17 games last year, but the 23-year-old young superstar out in Dallas had 79 points last year, 41 of them being goals. So when it comes to Dallas and when it came to Jason Robertson, he is a superstar and a franchise maker in Dallas. He also had a veteran in Joe Pavelski, who's averaging a point per game at the age of 38, which I will point out is unheard of in the modern NHL. For a guy who is 38 years old, a guy who's been in the NHL since 2006, to be a point per game player at his age. So the Dallas Stars have their talent. They still have Tyler Seguin. And Tyler Seguin was their captain. He was their guy. Jamie Benn is on the bottom 6 now, but he is still a point per game player even to this day in Dallas. And I would be a fool if I forgot to mention Miro Heiskanen, Esa Lindell, and they also have Niles Lundqvist. So the Dallas Stars have some talent on defense. They have a stud, an absolute future superstar in net in Jake Ottinger. And when it comes to the Dallas Stars, their beginning of their season shows you why they are something you have to watch out for. Understand, and I will definitely point this out, he was eager on board when Gallant was fired. If he hadn't already been on board, the Vegas Golden Knights would have not treated Gallant the way they are. Well, maybe we can do an episode on Gerard Gallant later here on Vegas Hockey Hub, but for now, I'm going to say Gallant turned out well, Pete DeBoer turned out well, and Bruce Cassidy turned out well. So all parties have done incredibly well since what happened in January of 2021. All right? When it came to Pete DeBoer, Gerard Gallant, and Bruce Cassidy, they are all doing well with their current franchises. So how are the Dallas Stars performing with Pete DeBoer? Not only does Pete DeBoer have the Dallas Stars to 10 wins and 7 losses on the year, but that would put them in 3rd place in the Western Conference. As a matter of fact, they would have the number 1 spot in the Central Division. So that Central Division is occupied by the Dallas Stars. Hey, Thomas, I'm glad you asked that question. Who do you have winning the Stanley Cup this year? Now, I have the Vegas Golden Knights winning the Stanley Cup, but the team I have them going up against will surprise you. Because the person I have facing Vegas this season is the New Jersey Devils out there in the Metro. I have the New Jersey Devils, who are currently riding an 11-game win streak in the NHL. I have them losing to the Vegas Golden Knights in the Stanley Cup Finals this year. And you know what? Some people are going to say it's crazy, just like my Buffalo Bill prediction earlier in the year. That's fine. But I'm going to point out that the Vegas Golden Knights and New Jersey Devils are two of the best well-constructed teams in the NHL. Their rosters from top to bottom is some of the best made in hockey. So that's my prediction. I will say the Vegas Golden Knights will beat the New Jersey Devils in the Stanley Cup final. And just to add a little cherry on top, when the Vegas Golden Knights are going down Las Vegas Boulevard, they're having the parade down on the strip. Your host, Ian Rakelli on Vegas Hockey Hub, I will be down there. I will be celebrating, and I will be chuckling and laughing and smiling because I will have said earlier this year, in fact, we did an episode on this back on Vegas Hockey Hub, on why the Vegas Golden Knights will win the 2023 Stanley Cup. So I will say that back in November of 2022, your host Ian Rakelli predicted the Vegas Golden Knights will win the Stanley Cup. So hopefully that answers your question, Thomas. Just like when it comes to the Stanley Cup final, the Super Bowl, I have the Buffalo Bills, and you know what? Seattle Seahawks, Geno Smith, I love what they're doing. And I actually would love to see the Seattle Seahawks go all the way. I would love to see the Seattle Seahawks, the absolute biggest underdog, find out a way to get to the Super Bowl. If they did, whoever puts money on that, whoever went to Caesar Sportsbook, whoever went to BetMGM, whoever put a bet down on the Seattle Seahawks at the beginning of the year, you, my friend, are a genius or a time traveler, whichever one you are. So, Thomas, when it comes to the Stanley Cup, Vegas beating New Jersey, the Super Bowl, I have Buffalo. They're going to beat somebody. I think Seattle would be a great team just because of the feel-good story. Hey, Thomas, when will I go to a Chicago Bears parade? Probably the same time the Philadelphia Flyers win a Stanley Cup. I'm just being honest, Thomas. The next time the Chicago Bears have a parade will probably be the same time the Philadelphia Flyers find a way to win a Stanley Cup. I mean, how long has it been since the Philadelphia Flyers have won a Stanley Cup? I kid. Now, back to the original conversation about Pete DeBoer. Now, those Dallas Stars are first in the Central, like I said earlier. Those 22 points. They're first in the Central. You know, Winnipeg is 1 point behind them. The reigning defending Stanley Cup champions are 2 points behind. But the seeding of the Western Conference, that is not what intrigues me. What fascinates your host, Ian Rakelli, is who the Dallas Stars would have to face in the first round. So, the NHL, they have their standings, right? So and we did this post on Vegas Hockey Hub on our Facebook page. All right. On our Facebook page, I put this up on there. If the NHL playoffs started today, here's what the matchups would be. So you have the Vegas Golden Knights, Nashville Predators. That would be an okay first round matchup. But the Dallas Stars would have to face off against Connor McDavid. They would have to go up against Leon Draisaitl. The Dallas Stars and Edmonton Oilers would no doubt in my mind be a marquee matchup in the first round if this indeed happened. Because last year, Dallas took on Calgary. So the year after, they would have to take on their brother, and that's in the Battle of Alberta in Edmonton. And I could just imagine how great this series could be because Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl led the Edmonton Oilers to the Western Conference Finals not even a few months ago. So Pete DeBoer and the third seed Dallas Stars taking on the number 7 seed Edmonton Oilers, that would be a fantastic matchup. As a matter of fact, I would love if that ended up being the case. If the standings ended up working out in that way, and the Dallas Stars took on the Edmonton Oilers in the first round, it would be exceptional. And since I already started down this road, I might as well finish it. So the number 1 seed Vegas Golden Knights would take on the 8 seed Nashville Predators. Well, the number 2 seed LA Kings would take on the number 5 seed Seattle Kraken. No, that's not a typo. You did not hear that correctly. The number 5 seed Seattle Kraken. The team that struggled as an expansion team last year currently has the 5 seed in the Western Conference. With a record of 9 wins, 5 losses, and 3 overtime losses, the Seattle Kraken have 21 points already on the year. That makes them the 5th best team in the Western Conference. And the LA Kings having the 2nd best record in the Western Conference at a record of 11 wins and 8 losses. Not only did I say that the LA Kings would be a great team this year, I even said that if you were a smart man and you put $100 down, I would do the LA Kings because they were like 28-1, 25-1. The LA Kings were kind of down there, and I thought they would be a lot higher than they were. So the LA Kings being the number 2 seed in the Western Conference as of right now is an amazing story because your host, Ian Rickelli, said that the LA Kings were going to be good this year, and I'm happy that they are. And to round this out, you have the number 4 seed Winnipeg Jets taking on the reigning defending Stanley Cup champion, the 6 seed Colorado Avalanche. Now, I understand. I acknowledge. Colorado is most likely not going to be a 6 seed by the time the Stanley Cup playoffs actually start. I am aware that Colorado will probably be a higher seed when the playoffs actually begin in May. But man, oh man, oh man, could you imagine if the Colorado Avalanche, the defending champions, was a 6 seed heading into the playoffs? Everyone freaked out about Tampa Bay Lightning being a lower seed last year. Could you imagine if Colorado had to do the same thing? So in the Western Conference, as of right now, you would have the 1 seed Vegas versus 8 seed Nashville, 2 seed LA versus 5 seed Seattle, 3 seed Dallas versus 7 seed Edmonton, and 4 seed Winnipeg versus 6 seed Colorado. And since we have 3 minutes left on the show, I'm going to get the East out of the way, by the way, just to address this. So the 1 seed Boston Bruins would take on the 8 seed New York Rangers. Yeah, the Gerard Gallant-led New York Rangers would barely squeak in the playoffs at 8-8, 20 points already this year. So Rangers would be the 8 seed, Boston would be the 1 seed. The 2 seed New Jersey Devils would take on the 7th seed Detroit Red Wings. So you would have the Devils versus Red Wings, kind of an old school matchup. You would have the 3 seed Toronto Maple Leafs taking on the 6 seed Tampa Bay Lightning. Yeah, that's right, by the way. Tampa Bay is currently a 6 seed. So you would have a rematch of the first round last year in Toronto and Tampa Bay. And then lastly, you would have a 4 seed Carolina versus 5 seed New York Islanders. So that would be what the Eastern bracket is. I went over the Western bracket, but I want to ask you this. If you had to make a prediction, if you had to come out and you have to say who is going to be your Stanley Cup prediction, put it in the chat down below, and I will read it out. I will talk about it in a future show, but let me know who you have in the Stanley Cup final. Your host, Ian Rickelli, has the Vegas Golden Knights beating the New Jersey Devils in 6 games. That's my prediction. So until next time, this was another great episode of Vegas Hockey Hub, going over what has happened to Pete DeBoer in Dallas. Continue watching hockey, support junior hockey. Go Knights, go. Until next time,